Hi guys, and welcome back to a new episode. Today we are going to learn how to send email in Spring Boot applications. If you follow along this course, by the end of it you will be familiar with how to add email dependencies to Spring Boot project. You will know how to configure email properties to make your service configurable. You will discover how to send email from Spring Boot applications, and also, very important, you will know how to test email features in your apps using Mailtrap, a free service that helps developing email features a lot easier. Now, one thing that you need to know is that all the source code from this demo will be available on GitHub, and you will find the link in the description of this video. Also, if you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. That being said, let's get started. Now that we have our mail dependency, we need to configure a mail server, because you cannot send an email if you don't use a mail server. Now, of course, you can use, Gmail or Yahoo or something like that, but we are going to use something better, which is called Mailtrap. Okay, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, like I said, we need to configure the mail server that our application will use. And to make this very easy to change at runtime, we need to add some application properties here. And the four application properties that we need are the host of the email server, the port of the email server, username, password, and then these are the mandatory ones, but the list can go on. If you use this SMTP, if you use POP3, if you use TLS or not, what kind of authentication, but for this application we just need these four. And like I said, you can use the settings from Gmail or the settings from Yahoo, but I'm going to use Mailtrap. Now, what is Mailtrap? Well, Mailtrap basically is a service that helps you test email features very easily. Basically, it provides an email server on demand, and you can use it to receive mails here. You can create test emails that you can use for your applications, and it makes testing email features a breeze. So it's 10 times better than spamming your colleagues or using your personal email to see if some application features work. So if you don't know it, I highly recommend to go to http://mailtrap.io. okay, and you can create a free account. And if you have a free account, then you have a free inbox, and then you can basically go here and you see that we have our credentials. We have credentials for SMTP, credentials for POP3, and I'm just going to use the host, port, username, and password properties in my application. So I'm just going to copy paste them. So I have this one, the port is 2525. Sorry. Okay, and now we have the username, and we also have the password. Okay, so now that we have successfully configured our email server, let's try to bind these properties to an actual class so that we can use them more easily in our application. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to name it email configuration. Okay, I don't want this to bother us, so this is going to be a component, a singleton component. Okay, and it will just have for properties the ones that I've showed you earlier. So we have a host, we have a private int, a port, and now we have username, and we also have a password. Okay, I'll go ahead and create getters and setters because it's just a data class, this one. And now I'm going to bind these fields to I'm going to bind these private properties to the application properties fields that I have created earlier. Okay, so it's going to be, I think it's like that, and I just need to copy paste those in here. It's going to be, well, actually I made a mistake. I don't want to copy the value, I want to copy the property name. Oops. Okay, so this is the port. I'm just going to copy paste this. This is the username, and this is the password. Okay, so now what's going to happen is when I'm going to use this class, these 4 properties will be populated with the values that I have defined here. Cool. Now we have an email configuration class. Let's go ahead and create a mail sender implementation. We'll start by creating a model for our feedback entity. So I'll create a new class. I'll call it feedback. Okay. The feedback class will contain a string with the name of the user that's giving us feedback. We need another string, an email, so we know how to reply to our user, and of course, another string with the actual feedback. Okay. Now, of course, if you want to add some validation, we can say here not null. We can say here this is an email, and of course here we can say not null, and I want at least 10 characters in this feedback to make sure that it's something consistent. Okay, and of course we'll add getters and setters because this is a data class. Now one thing that I want you to know is, because this example is pretty easy, and because I want to keep things very concentrated on the matter at hand, I'm not using all the best practices in these kinds of tutorials. So if I were to write production code, I'll probably write my application in a slightly different manner. But this is pretty good for demos, and I'm trying to be to the point and not lose myself in details that don't necessarily that are of no interest at this point in time. Okay, so I'm closing these parentheses, and let's get back to our demo. So I have a feedback class. Okay, and now I want to create a feedback controller. Okay, so this is going to be a REST controller. We'll add a request mapping, okay, to feedback. Okay, and I'll create a method called send feedback. We will receive feedback from the user, so we can imagine we have an HTML page with 3 fields: name, email, and password. The user hits a send button, and now we have to write the controller to handle that request. So we'll need to capture that data using a request body of type feedback. Okay, and this is going to be a post mapping, so we are using this via post. Okay, so we'll capture the feedback, and one dependency that we'll need is the email configuration. Email configuration, and we'll use dependency injection to populate this field. Okay, now we have our controller, we have a feedback. I also want to add here I think it's called model bind or binding result, sorry. It's called binding result. On binding result, I just want to check that feedback. I just want to check that the model is valid. So if binding result has errors, then we'll throw new validation exception. Okay, feedback is not valid. Cool. Else we're going to create a mail sender here. Now The first thing that we need to do is we need to create a mail sender. So we have mail sender implementation. This is the class Java mail sender implementation. We'll call it mail sender. And now we have to configure this mail sender with the email server properties that we get from our application properties file. So we'll say mail sender set host, and we'll populate it using email config get host. We say mail sender set port, and we are going to populate it with the port from the configuration. Mail sender set username, get username, and mail sender set password, okay, get password. Okay, so we have a mail sender. We configured it using our properties. Now we have to create an actual email instance. That's the second step. An email instance, and for that we have a class called Java Mail, I don't know exactly, MIME. Okay, my mail message. It's mail message actually. Get simple mail message, new simple mail message, and now we are going to populate. So we're going to populate mail parameters like from, to, subject, and the body of the mail, and we're going to populate them using our feedback entity that will be received from our customer. So from, we're going to get this from feedback, get the email of the person who sent us the feedback. Mail message set to, so this mail is addressed to, and now I'll put in a something which is not real. Romanian coder at I don't know, feedback.com. Fake email, doesn't actually matter. Mail message set subject, and we'll say something like new feedback from, and we're going to append the name of the person who sent us an email. And finally, mail message sets, I think it's body, if I'm not, set text actually, the body of the mail. We're going to retrieve that from the feedback. Okay, so now we have created a mail message instance with all the necessary fields for this email to be transmitted. And now we actually have to send this email instance using the mail sender. So send mail, we'll say mail sender send. Okay, and we are going to send the mail message. Okay, and that's it. So we now have a controller method that configures the Java mail sender, creates a mail instance, and sends it to the desired destination. Okay, now that we have this in place, we kind of need to check that our application is actually sending emails. To test our application, we can fire it up and use Postman or some other REST client out there, but I like to keep things in code, so we'll use the built-in IntelliJ HTTP REST client. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it feedback.http. So the extension here .http is really important. And now I'm going to define a post HTTP. No, it actually has to be a post HTTP localhost 8080/feedback. I think it's application content. Content type is application JSON. And now we're going to define the actual content, which, like I said, it's name, email, and feedback. So we have name, the name of the person who's sending the feedback. I'm going to use Dan. We have the email of the person who is sending us the feedback. So I'm going to say dan@gmail.com. And finally, we have the feedback value. Your app is awesome. So, okay. And we are going to use this. Notice that we have this little run icon here. So we can actually test our REST endpoints using this built-in tool that IntelliJ provides. And I think this is the best way to test REST applications in Java, because everything then remains in code. So somebody else can take your app and he can use the HTTP files to actually validate that the app is working without having to install third-party apps and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're firing up our application. We'll just, let it build and start. Okay, it's going to take a couple of seconds. Okay, so it appears that port 8080 is blocked by some other service. No problem. We are going to configure application to run on a port. So I think it's server.port. Okay, not 8080, we're going to use 8082. Okay. There is some other service using that same port. Okay, so we're firing up our application again. This time I'm on port 8082. Okay, and this time our application started on port 8082. I'm going to go to the feedback HTTP. I'm going to modify this, to match our new port. And I'm also going to put a breakpoint in our controller. And now I'm going to go to feedback HTTP. I'm going to hit run. And we can see that we've landed in our controller. And if you look at feedback, we have name, email, and feedback populated, from the HTTP file. We let our application run. And now for the big event, let's go to Mailtrap and see if we received any email. And now to test the mail, I went to Mailtrap again. You remember this page, and now we can see that we have a new mail, new feedback from Dan. We click on it, we see the content of our email, and everything appears to be okay. So it was sent by Dan to rc@feedback.com, and this is the text, this is the subject, so everything appears to function properly. Now please keep in mind that I will invalidate the credentials that I've used in this demo. So if you want to actually test this, if you want to download it from GitHub and test it, you'll have to provide new mail server properties. Okay, that being said, that was it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If that's the case, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you again in the next episode. Until then, have a great day and write amazing code. Goodbye.